Hello everyone. Today we will be doing the chapter God Lives in the Panch by Munshi Premchand. So this is a chapter about justice and relationships. So you must have seen a lot of friendships in your lifetime. Some friendships might have gone sour, some we might not have renewed because of our ego. And sometimes we give up on our ego and we go to our friend and we renew our friendships. Such friendships are an integral part of our lives. Our friends make us who we really are. So this is a story about justice and friendships. First we will be doing the reading of the chapter and I will be explaining it to you side by side, and then we will look into a quick summary. Juman Sheikh and Algu Chaudhary were very good friends living in the same village. Even minute discord nor rancor ever blemished their friendship. When one went out of the village, the other looked after the family of the absent friend. The villagers admired the friendship between the two and loved them for it. Juman had an old lonely aunt with no one in her family. Fortunately, she was lucky to have some property in her name. For her upkeep in her dotage, she suggested to her nephew Juman that she would bequeath her property to him in exchange of shelter and food in his household till her death. Juman agreed and the deal was struck. The old aunt moved to Juman's house, where she was accepted with warmth and welcome. She had hoped that she would see through her dotage with dignity and love in the foster home. The responsibility of looking after the old lady fell on Juman's wife. So here we see that Juman and Algu are two very good friends. Their friendship is totally admired by the villagers. And next we see that Juman has an old lonely aunt. And see, whenever we have somebody elderly in a household, the youngsters are supposed to take care of him or her and respect and give them enough dignity and respect to live their further life there. So that is what his aunt was expecting out of him. As days went by, the wife's love for the old lady began to wane. She felt the old lady to be an unnecessary burden on her means and energy. Predictably, her dislike for the aunt reflected in her behavior towards her. The aunt found the cold and frosty behavior of Juman's wife quite discomforting and hurtful. She protested at times, but could do little to make the young lady mend her manners. Even the frugal meals she ate were hard to come. The old lady resented such neglect and bitterly argued her case with the wife of Juman, resulting in angry exchanges. Taunts flew back and forth. The frequent tiffs led to a full-blown crisis as the aunt couldn't take the indignity and neglect any longer. The aunt spoke to Juman about the unbearable behavior meted out to her by his wife. Juman could offer no remedy and remained silent. Aggrieved further by her nephew's indifference, she asked for a small monthly dole so as she could cook her own meals. Now, she had come there in exchange of her property because she thought she would live in a surrounding full of love, full of family, where she would be admired by the youngsters and where she would be taken care of. But instead, what was happening here was the lady, Juman's wife, in the beginning, she was very nice to the old lady because she knew that she was getting her property in return. But as time went by, she thought, oh, she is such an old lady. Why do I have to waste my time and energy on her? Why do I have to give her all she wants? She is just an old lady and she'll die soon. So what happens here is that the wife, she slowly starts neglecting the old woman. And seeing this, the old woman feels very, very bad about it, that although she is giving her property to Juman, she is not returning the favor back. He is not returning the favor back to her. So what happens now is she is very aggrieved, as we see here, and she asked for her nephew to give her some money, in intervals so that she can cook her own meals. This plea too was turned down by the husband-wife duo. The hapless old lady's misery continued. The aunt decided to approach the Panch for seeking redress to the injustice she was battling in Juman's household. She approached the villagers to narrate her woes and seek intervention of the Panch. Some gave her a patient and sympathetic hearing. A few mocked her, while some advised her to make it up with Juman's wife, her real tormentor. She drew little solace from such advice. Finally, the Panch, the adulating authority of the village, was convened. On the appointed day, the villagers congregated under a tree to conduct the proceedings. Jumman, the defendant, was given the option to propose one among the villagers as the Panch, the headman for the session. He proposed the name of Algu, his dear friend. Algu occupied the august chair that called for strict neutrality and fair play. Algu heard out the two versions, one of the complaint and the other of his dear friend Jumman. So they refused her that no, whatever we give you, that is all you are going to get. So what the aunt decides now is she talks to people and she wants the Panch to address the issue. Now in villages we have committees and a Sarpanch leads it. So the committee basically acts like a governing body there, and they decide what should be done further whenever an issue is there in any household. So this is what was happening here, and when the Panch was being decided, Jumman blindly trusted his friend Algu, right, because we have already seen how close they were. So he blindly trusted his friend and he therefore chose him as the Panch for this session, because he was obviously hoping that he would favor him. Caught in a difficult situation, Algu as the Panch had to contend with conflicting positions, the call of duty as the Panch and the urge to side with his dearest friend. He chose to heed the call of his conscience. After much soul searching, Algu gave his verdict. Either Jumman gave his old aunt a monthly allowance or he returned her property. Jumman was very angry at his dear friend's stance, not realizing that Algu had only done his duty as a fair and just Panch. The fallout of the Panch verdict made their relationship bitter. Their relationship was frayed beyond repair. Jumman's heart burned with the desire to avenge Algu's indiscretion of siding with his aunt. Jumman's resentful mind blinded his inner vision. Some days later, misfortune befell Algu. One of his bullocks died. He was forced to sell off the other bullock to a cart owner. The buyer had 1 month time to pay the cost of the bullock. Sadly, the bullock died before the 1 month period ended. Now we see that in this case, what happened is Algu was very confused. Okay, so should I be a dear friend to Jumman and do as he wishes? Should I rule in his favor? Or should I be a just Panch? A Panch is supposed to be neutral. He is not supposed to take sides. So he was very confused in this. What should I do? But he had been anointed the Panch here. He had been anointed by the villagers. He had been trusted. So he had to make a just and fair decision. It was his conscience above all. So he gave a verdict that Jumman either gave his old aunt a monthly allowance or return her property, which was a fair verdict if we see, because his old aunt was tormented, although she had given her property, which was the deal. So now Jumman is very angry, and obviously you would have seen, if you expect something out of your friend and he or she does that thing that you're expecting, you get a little irritated and annoyed. So their relationship went all sour and bitter. Now next what happens is, while all of this was happening, after some time a misfortune befell Algu now. What happened? One of his bullocks died, and the next one he had to sell it for money. Quite understandably, he refused to pay the cost of the bullock to Algu. Much acrimonious exchange followed between the buyer and the seller. As a concession, the buyer offered to loan his bullock to Algu for a few days as a bargain. There was no consolation for Algu. Finally, he decided to take the matter to the Panch. A meeting of the Panch was arranged at Algu's behest. Much to the dismay of Algu, Jumman was nominated to act as the Panch on the occasion. He felt he could not get a favourable verdict from his erstwhile friend Jumman, who had become a foe by then. With fear and nervousness, he awaited the Panch's verdict. For Algu, it was a big call of conscience. He surely couldn't undermine the reputation of the Panch by letting his vengeful mind cloud his sense of fair play. The chair of the Panch was far too sacrosanct to be prey to one's own petty-mindedness. Now here see, now this time Jumman has been chosen as a Panch for Algu's case. Again, here we see that although during his time, he had expected Algu to favor him, but this time when he is the Panch, he is actually thinking like a Panch, he is being just and fair. He knows that he has to take the right decision. This is not a chair on which he can sit and take his revenge. So, as we see in the last paragraph, he knows that the chair is too holy, too sacrosanct to be a prey to one's own petty-mindedness. And he knows, that means he knows somewhere inside that he is raising a very petty issue in his mind. He is harboring a very petty issue in his mind. Jumman solemnly ruled that the cart owner, the buyer, must pay the full cost of the bullock to Algu, despite the fact that that animal had died before the 1-month credit period. After all, the bullock was fit and healthy on the day of sale. Its subsequent death could not be a ground for non-payment of the agreed money to Algu. The verdict came as a huge relief to Algu. He could hardly fathom the fact that his arch enemy, Jumman, had set his acrimony aside and decided to give a fair and just verdict. Overwhelmed with joy, he proceeded to hug Jumman. The duo buried their past and became friends again. Thus the Panch's time honored reputation of dispensing fair verdict was kept. The moral question, should friendship override call of conscience when both are at odds with each other, was settled once and for all. So here we see that Jumman understood the holiness of the chair of a Panch, and that's why he ruled in favor of Algu. He did not take his revenge, he kept his ego aside. And this keeping of his ego aside resulted in them renewing their friendship one again. And as we say, the moral question, should friendship override call of conscience when both are at odds with each other? That means basically, sometimes our friends are wrong, but we are not really true friends to them if we give in to them every time, if we even encourage their negativity. We have to lead them in the positive direction. So this is what Algu was doing, and so was Jumman by the end of the play.